Tamu was a young meerkat with a twinkle in his eye. He lived in the African savanna with his family, but Tamu was different from the other meerkats. He loved to cause mischief. While others stood guard, Tamu would sneak away. He'd roll in the dust and pretend to be a rock. Then he'd jump out and scare his siblings. It was great fun for Tamu, but not for anyone else. His mother would scold him, "Tamu, you must learn to be responsible." But Tamu just giggled. His father would shake his head. "Son, a meerkat's job is to look out for danger." But Tamu thought that sounded boring. He wanted adventure and excitement, not standing around all day looking for eagles. Tamu's brothers and sisters were all so well behaved. They took their duties seriously. They practiced their warning calls and dug new tunnels. Tamu tried to join in, but he always got distracted. He'd start digging, then find a shiny pebble. Soon he'd be off playing with it instead of working. The other meerkats would sigh and roll their eyes. At night, when the family huddled together to sleep, Tamu couldn't settle. His mind raced with ideas for new pranks and adventures. He dreamed of exploring beyond their little patch of savanna. There must be more to life than this, he thought. Tamu knew he was meant for something special. He just didn't know what it was yet. Little did he know a big adventure was just around the corner. One hot afternoon, Tamu was pretending to be on lookout duty, but really he was daydreaming about flying like a bird. Suddenly he heard voices. Two old meerkats were gossiping nearby. They didn't notice little Tamu listening in. "Have you heard about the magical baobab tree?" one whispered. Tamu's ears perked up. "A magical tree? This sounded interesting." The old meerkats spoke in hushed tones. They told of a giant baobab tree far across the savanna. Its branches reached up to the sky like giant arms, and its trunk was as wide as 100 meerkats standing paw to paw. But the most amazing thing was its fruit. "They say if you eat the fruit, you get one wish," said the first old meerkat. "Anything your heart desires," added the second. Tamu's mind was spinning. A magical wish-granting fruit? This was his chance. He could wish to be the bravest meerkat ever. No more would his family call him irresponsible. He'd be a hero. Tamu's heart raced with excitement. He had to find this tree. It would be the biggest adventure of his life. But there was one problem. The old meerkats said the tree was very far away. It was past the elephant graveyard and beyond the flamingo lakes. Tamu had never been that far from home before. It would be dangerous. There were predators out there, lions, hyenas, and huge birds of prey. But Tamu didn't care. He was going to prove how brave he was. He'd find that tree no matter what. That night, while his family slept, Tamu made his move. He packed a little bag with some seeds and berries. He took one last look at his sleeping brothers and sisters. Then he slipped out of the burrow and into the night. The savanna looked different in the dark. The grass whispered secrets in the wind. Strange shadows danced under the moonlight, but Tamu wasn't scared. He was excited. As the sun rose, Tamu realized how far he'd come. He could no longer see his family's burrow. Everything looked new and strange. Tall grasses swayed in the breeze. Colorful birds called from the trees. Tamu had never felt so free. He scampered along, his little legs carrying him faster and faster. He was on an adventure at last. But soon Tamu's excitement turned to worry. He didn't know which way to go. The savanna stretched out endlessly in every direction. How would he find the magical baobab tree? Just then he spotted something in the distance. It was big and grey and moving very slowly. As Tamu got closer, he saw it was an old tortoise. The tortoise's shell was cracked and worn like an ancient map. "Excuse me," said Tamu politely. "I'm looking for the magical baobab tree. Do you know where it is?" The old tortoise turned its head slowly. It looked at Tamu with kind, ancient eyes. "Ah, the baobab," it said in a creaky voice. "Many seek it, but few find it. Why do you search for it, little one?" Tamu puffed out his chest. "I'm going to eat the magical fruit and become the bravest meerkat ever." The tortoise smiled a slow smile. "Bravery, eh? Well, you're in luck. I know the way. But remember, young Tamu, true bravery isn't always what you think it is." Section 4, Lessons from New Friends. The tortoise told Tamu to head towards the rising sun. Tamu thanked him and scampered off. He felt braver already. Soon he came to a big lake. Pink flamingos stood in the water, balanced on one leg. Tamu had never seen anything like it. "How do you do that?" he asked in wonder. A friendly flamingo replied, "It takes practice and patience, little one. Want to try?" Tamu was eager to show off. He stood on one leg, wobbling wildly. Splash! He fell right into the water. The flamingos laughed, but not unkindly. They helped Tamu back to shore. "Don't give up," they encouraged. "Try again." Tamu did, over and over. Finally, he balanced for a whole minute. He felt proud. The flamingos cheered. "See," said one, "bravery isn't just about being fearless, it's about trying again when you fail." Next, Tamu met a herd of elephants. They were using their trunks to dig for water in the dry ground. Tamu watched in amazement. Then he noticed a baby elephant struggling to use its trunk. Without thinking, Tamu grabbed his little bag. He scooped up water and brought it to the baby. The mother elephant trumpeted her thanks. "That was very kind of you," she said. Tamu blushed. He hadn't been trying to be kind, he just wanted to help. As Tamu continued his journey, he met a cheeky monkey. The monkey swung from tree to tree, showing off. "Hey there, ground walker," he called. "Bet you wish you could climb like me?" Tamu felt a flash of jealousy. Then he remembered the flamingos and elephants. "Actually," he said, "I'm happy being me. Want to be friends instead of competing?" The monkey looked surprised, then grinned. "Sure thing, pal." He swung down and they walked together, sharing stories and laughs. Section 5. The Baobab's True Magic. Finally, after many days of travel, Tamu saw it. The magical Baobab Tree. It was even bigger than he'd imagined. Its trunk was wider than 100 elephants. Its branches seemed to touch the clouds. And hanging from those branches were the most beautiful fruits Tamu had ever seen. They glowed like little suns. Tamu's heart raced. He was so close to his wish. But as he approached the tree, Tamu hesitated. He thought about his journey. He remembered the wise tortoise, the patient flamingos, the kind elephants, and the friendly monkey. He'd learned so much from them. Suddenly, Tamu realized something important. He didn't need a magic fruit to be brave. He was already braver than he'd ever been. Tamu sat down in the shade of the great baobab. He looked up at the glowing fruit. Then he reached into his little bag. He pulled out the seeds and berries he'd packed so long ago. As he ate his simple meal, Tamu felt happier than he ever had before. He'd made this long journey all by himself. He'd made new friends and learned new things. That was the real magic. Just then, a soft voice spoke. "Well done, young Tamu." It was the baobab tree itself. "You have learned the greatest lesson of all. True bravery comes from kindness, wisdom, and friendship. These things are more powerful than any wish." Tamu nodded, understanding at last. He didn't need to change who he was. He just needed to be the best Tamu he could be. Section 6. A Hero's Homecoming. With a light heart, Tamu began his journey home, but this time he wasn't alone. His new friends came with him. The wise tortoise, the flamingos, the elephants, and the monkey all wanted to see where Tamu lived. They traveled together, laughing and sharing stories. Tamu felt like the luckiest meerkat in the world. As they neared Tamu's home, they heard a commotion. Tamu's family was frantically searching for him. When they saw Tamu, they ran to him with cries of joy. They hugged him and scolded him all at once. Tamu introduced his new friends and told them about his adventure. His family listened in amazement. They could hardly believe their mischievous little Tamu had done all this. Tamu's father looked at him with pride. "Son," he said, "when you left, I thought you were being irresponsible. But now I see you've become braver and wiser than any of us." Tamu's mother hugged him tight. "We're so proud of you, Tamu," she said. Tamu's brothers and sisters crowded around, eager to hear more about his journey. From that day on, things were different in Tamu's colony. He still played pranks sometimes, but now he also taught the other meerkats what he'd learned. He showed them how to balance like flamingos and be kind like elephants. He told them stories of the magical baobab tree. And every day, Tamu stood proudly on lookout duty. He watched for danger, but he also watched for new friends and new adventures. Because now Tamu knew that true bravery meant being curious, kind, and always ready to learn.